Thank you very much. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. My goal today is to share with you some free tools that make natural language processing, state-of-the-art natural language processing, much easier to use for you. There's been a lot of progress in low-code, no-code tools, and I'm going to focus today on things that are available for free and that can help your next project today. So in terms of content, we'll do a short introduction about kind of where we are with NLP now, and then we'll talk about two specific tools that are available to you: the NLU Library in Python and the Annotation Lab. So natural language processing has improved by leaps and bounds in terms of both what is possible with state-of-the-art technology and then how the industry is actually using it. And it's really becoming just a foundational enterprise technology. And you can see some of the numbers here from the latest NLP industry survey about just growth in budgets. And really, I think the only growth in budget in the past 2 years have been AI and cybersecurity in a significant way. The one at the bottom is from the latest healthcare AI survey, really for the first time placing NLP alongside data integration, business intelligence, and data warehousing as kind of the core technologies, that more than half of technical leaders were using. So we have definitely made the switch from, oh, these are really cool academic results in deep learning transfer learning, to something that the majority of the industry is using now on a daily basis. So the question for us as an open source community, as an industry, is how can we accelerate this? How can we make it much easier for you, for all of us, to deliver projects, deliver real solutions that work and are reliable? And this is what we came up with the Annotation Labs. We just see this as the fastest and easiest way to accelerate as many projects as possible. We just make more of the software free, and not only that, we make the enterprise grade, the scalable, the robust software free. And our focus has always been helping the applied audience, so people in startups, in industries, in companies that need solutions that work, that are easy to operate, easier to scale, and not just kind of help the academic and research move forward. So I'm going to show you today two such solutions and tools that are, as I said, are free completely, and including for commercial use, and available to you today. Both of them build on top of Spark NLP. Spark NLP is for the past 4 years have been the most widely used NLP library in the enterprise. Recently crossed 20 million downloads, but now really going at 1.25 million downloads per month now. So still growing very, very quickly. It's been used by about 1/3 of NLP practitioners based on kind of the latest O'Reilly and Gradient Flow industry surveys, and provides state-of-the-art accuracy in quite a number of benchmarks. And for us, state-of-the-art accuracy, when we say it, we mean it in the academic sense. We mean the peer-reviewed papers that with reproducible code and notebooks that have been made public on public competitive academic benchmarks, where we achieve the best accuracy. So everything I'm going to show you today is building on top of that and provides you the same accuracy, scalability, robustness that Spark NLP provides. So the first tool we're going to talk about is the NLU Library at Python. And the goal there was to take everything that Spark NLP gives you, but basically allow you to do it in one line of Python code. And that was really one of the design principles of the library. You want to be able to do almost everything, just one line of code. The other thing we wanted was to make sure that this will integrate very, very elegantly with the Python ecosystem. So as you can see, with the one-liners, you can send in a pandas data frame, you get back a pandas data frame. So it's very easy kind of to work within the ecosystem, right? So if you're integrating this with PyTorch, TensorFlow, visualization tools, any other tools within the Python ecosystem, really there's not just the NLP part is one line. We also made sure to minimize any kind of translation or in the library scaffolding code that you otherwise have to do. And of course, this is open source, Apache 2.0 license, so freely available and open source for any use. So the NLU library, what it enables you to do is enables you to use more than 4,500 NLP models just out of the box. Really, they're just, for starters, there are two methods you need to know. This example does spell correction, and it's NLU.load spell. Spell is the short name for the spell checking, default spell checking model for English. And you do .predict. I like peanut butter and jelly, and you can see the words like peanut, butter, and jelly are misspelled. But what you get here, you get as a result is a pandas data frame. As you can see, the tokenization results, and then the corrected entities. So basically, the spell checker coming back and telling you, look, here are your corrected results. So this is just one example. When you load spell, you load a pipeline. This loads any embeddings, any models. If they're downloaded from the internet, if they're not there, if they're already cached locally, they're used locally. All of that is taken care for you in the background. So that's one example, tokenization and spell checking. You can also do different types of text classification. For example, this is sentiment analysis. So here, NLU.load sentiment, predict. I heard this guy semi, and you can see that the sentiment is negative. You can see the confidence interval as well. So everything is available to you here. Spark NLP has models for more than 200 languages. On top of that, you also have language detection. Language detection actually works for their models for up to 375 languages. And this is another example. So here, so far we sent a string. Now you can see you can also send to the predict method. You can send just an array of strings. Like this is what we do here. And I said you can also send the pandas data frame, a Spark data frame, or an Apache Ray data frame. You get back the same kind of data frame you send. So for example, you're using Ray, you send a Ray data frame, you get back a Ray data frame. Same thing with Spark, which means that if you're running this on a multi-core machine or on a Spark cluster, it's the same one-liner. And it will run parallel and use the entire cluster, if, of course, Ray or Spark are configured that. Other than having just individual tasks, one other thing you can do is you can reuse the I don't know how many thousands of embeddings that come and are regularly updated with Spark NLP. And sometimes the people want really just to calculate embeddings, so there's support for word embeddings, chunk embeddings, sentence embeddings, and document embeddings. Here are some examples. Here we do NLU.load. As you can see, you can have just separate by space and ask for multiple things to happen together. So here what we say, load Bert, Elmo, Albert, ExcelNet, USE, Universal Sentence Embeddings, and GLAV embeddings. And just predict, basically calculate the embeddings of this sentence. And you get the vectors for each one of them in just one pandas data frame. So it's really nice to have it all together, right? If you're looking to, on top of it, right, putting some visualization or some downstream TensorFlow, PyTorch job. The only thing is, if you're loading, you can load dozens of models, just make sure that your machine has enough memory to actually load them. Another very common NLP task is name entity recognition. So in this case, NLU.load.ner, which is the default recommended name entity recognition in English. Angela Merkel from Germany and the American Donald Trump don't share many opinions. And you can see that the algorithm calculates embedding and then extracts entities, in this case, people, location, and miscellaneous, it's American. So that happens as well. And this is a state-of-the-art BERT-based model. And I believe the default uses the BLSTM plus CNN for tokens. All of that is done for you behind the scene, loaded, optimized, scalable to a cluster, uses the most recent embeddings, and just does it all for you. In addition to pre-trained name entity recognition, there's also the ability to ask for YAKE, so basically completely unsupervised keyword extraction, right? If you don't know exactly what you're looking for. So for example, NLU is a Python library for beginners and experts in NLP. You can see that the keywords are NLU, NLP, and Python library, and you can see the confidence level based on that. So this is just a pre-trained model. If you're looking to extract really just keywords from, whether it's news, tweets, emails, this is one completely unsupervised way to do that. Another example of a model, we saw text classification, as for example, sentiment analysis. There's also support for multi-class text classifiers. And one of the popular one is detecting toxic content, which of course is doing that and with state-of-the-art accuracy is interesting for many, many, many practical applications, right? Both open source and enterprise and industry. So there's a number of toxic content classification models that come with the library. Here we load in English, en.classify.toxic. You are so stupid. And in this case, you can see that this actually classified as two types of bad content, both toxic content and insult. This model specifically can also look at identity attacks, hate speech, sexual content, I believe, and a few other basically types of toxic content, and can tell you the confidence for each one. Some of the more advanced or interesting applications of NLP are on translation, summarization, question answering, and those are covered by NLP as well, by the NLU library as well. And here you can see the example code. So pipe equals NLU.load summarize, which was kind of really basically the recommended summarizer in English. You can look at the data and then see just basically run pipe.predict on the data. And what you get back is really just the summary. You can do it on one document. You can do it on, you can provide the whole data frame of many documents, and you can even kind of scale this on a cluster if that's really what you need. One thing to note here, you can see we do EU.load summarize. Summarize basically an alias. There are many summarization models. There are several hundred translation models. You can definitely pick and choose between them if you have the fully qualified name. Aliases like summarize basically says, look, this is the most current, most accurate model for this task, which means that when we update and when we deliver new models, which we do every 2 weeks, we'll update the aliases when more accurate or when a new model is available. Another thing that comes out of the box, just another example of a task, is question answering. So if you really want to know, for example, what is the capital of Germany, you just have to ask. It's a one-liner. You get the result, Berlin, as a string. There really is nothing more to it in terms of using those models. Everything happens for you in the back. So you have just over 4,500 models that you can work with out of the box in this form. But NLU goes beyond just running the prediction. There's also visualizations that are built in. To get the visualizations, for example, here for name entity, for recognition, for recognize entities, instead of predict, use the viz method. So you can see NLU.load, NER, it's the same model, but instead of predict, you say viz. And with viz, what you're asking the model to do is run the same thing, but like visualize the results, right? With the visualizer that's most relevant to the model that you just loaded. So here you can see the visualization for Donald Trump from America and Angela Merkel from Germany. Don't share many opinions. You can see the entities. There are about 10 types of visualizations that are available out of the box. So one of the examples you can see here is for typed dependency parsing. So dependency parsing is the NLP task where what we want to do is basically find the part of speech of every token in the text and then label the dependency. So for example, we have Billy went to the mall. We want to know that Billy is the subject and Billy relates to went. So Billy is the one who went, right? And not someone else if it's a compound sentence. And if you want to know where they went, so we know it's the mall, right? And not something else mentioned in that paragraph. So you have that visualization. Well, we also provide visualizations for relation extraction, negation detection, and just other common NLP tasks, spell checking, and a few others. NLU has one other cool thing that just comes out of the box. There's about 10 different STREAMLIT applications that basically come bundled in with NLU. And you can see one example. These are also activated with just one-liner. You can send your text and tell it basically calculate the embeddings, calculate the task, and now please start an interactive web application, interactive NLU application that enables you to look at the text. And this is super useful if you're looking to do what the little animation here shows, which is to debug the embeddings and interactively kind of look, and there are 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional visualization. So you can see things like really, I mean, are the embeddings working? Do you have coverage issues? Do you have bias issues sometimes with different words? And you can also, of course, because it's interactive, you can change the text and see what happens. You basically go and debug the models and see how well things behave. Also a good learning tool. Here are the out-of-the-box STREAMLIT apps that come with NLU. As you can see, all of them are activated via one-liner. So if you're looking, for example, to debug sentiment analysis, NLU.load sentiment.viz STREAMLIT classes, and then just the data that you wanted to at least start with analyze. Okay, so that's really all you need to do. All of this is open source, super easy to use. Please just do. If you want to start using the NLU library, there's a one-liner installation. So this installation, Google Colab. There's also one-liner for Kaggle, and there are also ways to get this, in a Docker container, or we can just do quick install and get started locally if you're within that kind of environment. There's a full documentation online. So if you go to nlu.johnsonlabs.com, you'll see more examples. There are over 100 Jupyter notebooks with different examples, code that shows you exactly how the different models work, how you can do training, how you can configure the results, and how we can deal with different kinds of models and edge cases. There's also a Slack community support. So if you go to sparknlp.slack.com, the team is there daily. We provide free community support. And if you go to the NLU channel there, you can ask NLU specific questions. If there are any questions, please type them in under Q&A, and I'll be looking at them through the end at the end. Right now, what I like to do is cover the second tool which I wanted to look at, which is the complete no-code tool for being able to do deep learning, but also really transfer learning. So one of the things that we want to enable people to do with NLP is get things done without being data scientists at all. So now what we'd like is to enable, for example, a medical doctor to come and say, look, I want to be able to extract information automatically from pathology reports, from next generation sequencing reports, from dental X-ray reports. And I'm a dentist or I'm a radiologist. I don't know and I don't care about Python or deep learning or Spark or any of that. I just want a nice UI where I can tell you, I can annotate, write and label as few examples as possible. Here's examples of what I need, or here are rules about, look, how I would extract this, and then have a model automatically train in the background, and then be able, of course, to publish and use it. We want lawyers to be able to automatically extract data from contracts or precedents. We want financial analysts to be able to extract data automatically from complex financial disclosures and statements, and that's the goal here. And the good news is we are at the point where not only is this possible, this is something that is actually being used in production. Apologies. And we are seeing this happening really more and more often these days. Johnson Labs Annotation Lab is free. You can get it for free, download, use it for personal and commercial use. By free, first of all, mean yes, unlimited users, documents, projects, tasks, model. It's like, it's not free for the first 1,000 annotations or 100 documents or first 3 users or anything of the sort. It's completely unlimited. The other way in which this is free is you share nothing with us. So this is software that you install within your infrastructure. It's actually designed to run within highly secure air-gapped environment. After installation, it does not even require an internet connection. None of your data gets sent to anyone, not to Johnson Lab, not to anyone else. Because of course, if someone tells you something is free, but you have to share all your data, that really is not free, and mostly unusable in enterprise environments. I'll show you some of the capabilities, but the other thing we've made free is what's usually taken on as enterprise features. So project management, team management, role-based access, strong authentication, strong security, versioning, audit, analytics, all comes for free out of the box. And as you can see on the right, this is a fairly robust tool. It's been used by quite a few, really of some of the larger companies in the world. It's in third year and 29 version. So the first thing the annotation tool enables you to do is to load documents. This works for text. It works for visual documents like PDFs or scans. Works for images, audio, video, and HTML pages. And the first and most important thing is to just be a very high productivity data annotation tool, which means that, and we've done a lot of work on just really core productivity, so you can have one hand on keyboard, one hand on mouse, have keyboard shortcuts, be able to look at the annotation guidelines very easily, be able to label really with shortcuts and really without too many mouse movements, label entities, label relationships between them, assertions, so negation, for example, or normalization of data to value or classes, and all of this available for you. on the text. On the right, as you can see, there are versions. So if multiple, either you have multiple versions of annotation or multiple people do different things to the documents, you can see the versionings. You can compare to the previous versions or to what other people did. And most of the edits are done with one click. So there's a lot of work there. The work is designed around, is packaged around projects and teamwork. So as you can see, there's the task management and prioritization queues. You can customize the workflow. So you can decide, for example, that certain percentage of tasks need to be reviewed by a person. You can decide that more than one person need to do each task, right? If you want to have some kind of majority voting, you can assign tasks to people, you can assign reviewers. You can automatically eliminate duplicates, right? In case in case duplicates are loaded, and you can add different tags to different tasks, right? Like, oh, listen, this requires correction, or this should be saved, for example, to only the test set, not the training set. When you define projects, there are more than 30 types of projects that are supported out of the box. And you can annotate, images, you can annotate videos, you can annotate sound, and we usually, just as Johnson Labs, we focus on text. So all of that is, of course, there as well. When you define projects, you also define people and roles. And you can define whether a person is an annotator, a reviewer, or a manager. And you can configure the project team. As I said, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, a connection to federate identity providers, whether using AD, LDAP, or Auth0, or one of those tools is there out of the box. And there's a full logging and audit trails. So, and say for us, a lot of the people who use this are within healthcare, within life science, highly regulated industries. And this tool is designed from the ground up for those enterprise regulated environment with strong security controls in place. The other very important thing when you're running team, you're running projects, is really to have good analytics in place to know, if you have, for example, if you have 100 documents to annotate, it doesn't matter. But if you have 100,000, then you really want to be able to manage projects, see how you're doing. And there are more than 20 different types of graphs that are included, but really the three basic questions that they answer are where I am with my project, right? So how close am I to actually completing my project on time, right? So how many documents are there? How much does it take me to do each one? And really, where are we in the different in the workflow? The second important question is productivity, right? So per person, right, or per team, how many documents are we doing per hour? How many are we reviewing per hour? How many do we have to send back for corrections, right? So that you really know when the project will be done and what level of quality. The third question that you need to answer is bias in the dataset. So, usually if you do well, you try to make sure that the dataset you load is not biased. But sometimes only when you annotate, for example, let's say you do facial recognition, and only when you annotate, you noticed, 78% of what we annotated so far is only women. Okay, we may want to actually load more data and annotate more data to basically rebalance and debias the dataset. So what you want to do is during the project, you want to see what people actually labeled, what they annotated, to really understand the biases within the data that's there. So several of those reports are there to make it easy. On top of that, there's also a set of reports for Inter-Annotator Agreement, which when you are labeling data is absolutely critical to make sure that basically that you're not annotating junk. And junk does not mean that people are wrong, it just means that they disagree. Which means that any model you train will be very, very confused, which will show. So knowing when people on your own team disagree on the same labels and same documents is very important. And there are some visualization to show exactly which labels this is happening on. It may mean that you didn't train people correctly, or that the actual guidelines are a bit fuzzy and people are making different assumptions. Other than visualization, it's also very important to have the drill down, because if you and I labeled something as you label it as location, I label it as country, and you say, well, we need to decide which is which. It's very important to have the drill down to the actual text to be able to look one by one and see really just what we should agree on and what should be in the guidelines. So one thing is being able to annotate and make sure domain experts can do it. It's productive, it does not require any data science knowledge, and really just focuses on people applying their domain knowledge. But the reason we are all here for is for the no-code model training and active learning. So basically, as you annotate, we have this tool has the capability to train models in the background, and there are quite a few features there. So first of all, training happens asynchronously, right? So if you train, it can be very large machine, GPUs, trainings in parallel, all of that. It will not impact people annotating because we do it in separate containers on the same Kubernetes, but we can make sure it's separate CPU, separate memory. You have a real-time training log. So if the model takes a long time, like tens of minutes to train, if it's a complex, vision or image model, you can look at the real-time log and see when you stop. You can click train now or set it to fully automate with active learning. And if you really want, and you click the advanced setting buttons, you can choose embeddings, you can choose hyperparameters, and you can choose how to split training or test, right? So you can either make it random, or you can tell, no, I specifically labeled these for test, and please use those so you have consistency across versions of the model. Once you know that you have models and you're training models as you go, the other big feature that's important is automated pre-annotation. Because if I'm a domain expert, and let's say I'm an oncologist, I'm looking to extract tumor characteristics, and I don't want to start with nothing and start having to annotate 5,000 patients and say every symptom, every tumor measurement, right, and every procedure that was done. I want to start with pre-trained models and basically just correct the model, just refine it with the few things that I really care about, right? So maybe there are only specific drugs that I care about, only specific measurements or labs that I care about. So to do that, what you do is you start with the pre-trained models, and any of the Spark NLP ecosystem models are available to you. And as you can see in the UI, you can decide which field you should apply for, which models you want to use. You click pre-annotate, so basically you load documents, you pre-annotate them, and then when people start working, they see what the predictions were, and then they can decide if they approve them or correct them. This easily makes projects between 5 to 10 times faster, of course, depending on how much you need to correct. So you can choose the models, you can choose the embedding, you can choose which tasks and where in the workflow you want this to happen. And this also runs asynchronously. So if you've loaded 50,000 documents and you need to pre-annotate, this will not hurt the productivity of the people actually doing the annotation. What you can see here is when you get to the user interface, you just see the pre-annotated data. As you can see on the right, you can see the predictions. The predictions are separate from the manual completion, so it's very clear what was done automatically, what was done manually, and their version separately as well, so that you can easily compare them and decide what you move forward with to train the model. So the usual workflow is you load the data, you pre-train it, so you pre-annotate it, then you start fixing things. As you start fixing and submitting work, the model retrains, and then use the new version of the model to pre-annotate the next set of documents you load, until at some point you come and say, look, this is just basically good enough. I've stopped correcting it, at least on the things that I really care about. Let's just go with this version of the model, and then you can just download or publish it. When you use, for example, on the NLP side, we have fairly strong transfer learning models. So we often see that, you don't have to do 5,000 patients. You do 200-300 patients. You can do it, usually in a few hours, and you're done. You have a state-of-the-art model. You've personally validated it. You've debiased it, and it's good to be published without harming any data scientist in the process. On top of the models, one other thing that we've added recently is the ability to also add rules. And this is also done with no code within the UI. So there are dictionary-based rules, regex-based rules. So you can edit them within the UI. You can configure them. And basically, you can mix and match rules and models. So you can come and say, I want to annotate or pre-annotate these documents via deep learning model, or via just this set of rules, and both of them works. So if you want to do programmatic labeling, that's really the nice way to do that. And it's definitely popular for specific types of use cases where this works well. And the last thing I'd like to show is there's also a model hub that's basically part of this tool set. So since there are really thousands of models, you want to have a hub where you can come and say, just browse all the models, search, filter. And there are 3 ways for models to get here. There are models that are downloaded from the NLP Models app, so that's when you use or start from existing ones. There are models that, for example, you can just upload a model that you've custom built, right? So if a data scientist did something custom and you want to start with that and refine it, you can upload it directly here. And the third type of models that get here, the model that the tool itself trained, right? So once you train the model, right? So, you know, you have a lawyer and you say, okay, I trained the thing, like, where is it? How do I give it to someone to actually deploy it? You can go here. You'll see the model, you'll see kind of the metrics and the logs around it, and then you can just really just click download, right? And then really you have the file and you can go and deploy it wherever you need. So all the models are available here within the tool, with search, with filtering. And one of the last things we've recently added is that the rules are here as well. Okay, so if you have a rule set that you've configured, you can share rules across project. Right, so for example, I define this really complex set of rules for how we, for example, extract blood pressure, right, or some measurements, and all the regexes and the synonyms and the normalization. You can share it with your team here. You can reuse it, and then also you can download and use it across multiple projects. So it's really, if you're most interested in rules, or if you want to combine rules and models and really do programmatic labeling, all of that is available for you for free, included out of the box. So if you're looking to use this, one-line installation, as I said, the software installs, it's a set of Docker container. It installs locally on your environment, on your machine. So, you don't have to share your data or what you're trying to do or the results with anyone else. There's online documentation, so many more, videos and kind of reference about how you use each of those features. And if you have any questions, spark-nlp.slack.com. Go to the Annotation Lab channel, and we're there daily, and we'll be happy to help you with any questions or issues that you see. That's what I wanted to share with you. As I said, NLU Library, Annotation Lab, they're free. Please put them to good use. That's really, we do it for you. All we ask is that, do something good with it and help make things happen. That's what I wanted to share. Any more questions? Here are my contact details, and I'm always happy to connect, answer questions, and help you succeed with your own project.